in this episode, I'll be taking a look back to my favourite time of the spectrum, and a software house that also had local shops. One of which I visited every Friday on payday to buy lots of games. The whole thing started for me when two people, Dave Town and Keith Nathan, opened a computer shop near where I live. The exact date I can't find, but let's say late 1982. The earliest mention I can find comes from January 1983 in Popular Computing Weekly. Here is an advert for that very shop, Byte in Morley, Leeds. This was a shop I used to visit and can still vividly remember the layout, size and setup. It was a small, tiny place holding about 5 people maximum, but it had a great atmosphere. Shelves on the wall behind the counter held games, and a table, or possibly a desk, held a few computers set up with games loaded. Out of reach, sadly. But they would happily load any game for you if you asked them. This was my computer shop. They had other, larger shops in Leeds as well, opening later on, selling not only computer games, but Games Workshop things like miniatures and that sort of thing. They were Last Chance in Headingley, Leeds, announced in early March 1983, and Herriman's Dell in Cross Gates, Leeds, announced in October 1983. In June 1983, they set up a software house named Assassin Software and released their first game. As part of the news item, they also mentioned another game called Mogadishu, due to be released in another 2 weeks. As you may know, I handed over one of my games to them in June 1984, which they didn't feel they could market, and this led to the CRL incident, but let's move on. And onto the games themselves then, the games of Assassin Software. In roughly date order, based on first advertisements, we have Toad's Travels, released on the 14th of June 1983. They started with an arcade favourite, boasting in the advert 4 lanes of traffic, children's playground, hungry crocodiles and floating logs. Here we get an average version of the classic arcade game. Unlike other earlier versions, this has relatively smooth movement, but there are some odd things going on once you start playing. Although the cars, crocodiles and logs move smoothly enough, poor old Toad, whose name is Theodore by the way, moves in character jumps. This means getting between spaces and keeping a distance from the obstacles is tricky. Also, unlike other versions, our Toad can swim, so you have to guide him through the water and onto the logs. He can't, though, swim in the water behind the logs, which is interesting and annoying in equal measures. And if you manage to get our Toad onto a log, another oddity appears. The logs continue to move, but Toad remains static, and he can fall off the end of the log if you don't keep moving him along when space allows. The graphics are user-defined, and looking at part of the basic listing, the author has even poked some extra graphics into the standard character set. Sound is used well with some nice machine code effects, but control can be sticky, with Toad moving too far or not moving far enough. Strangely, your lives are shown as men and not Toads. For an early version then, it's not too bad. Next they advertised a game called It's Only Rock and Roll on the 7th of July 1983. This is missing in action, or possibly never ever released. If you read the advert, it mentions things like busking, making your own songs, hearing your own songs, seeing you perform. Now all this sounds very much like this game, released by K-Tel, with the same name. It was released around the same time, and it has all the features mentioned in Assassin's advert, and it's written in BASIC, like their other games. Could it be that the author had a better offer? We'll never know. Moving on then, and past the 2 weeks promised for the Mogadishu game, we get Usurper, released on 8th of September 1983. It had 2 versions of the game on tape, one for use with a supplied map, sadly not preserved, and one to play without it. This is a weird game. After choosing how many players, you get a day count followed by the usual stats for a D&D style game. Then, well, nothing. I pressed some random keys and suddenly things started to happen and a fight ensued. Looking at the instructions, this is a typical Dungeons & Dragons style game with only a set number of places to visit. These are represented by key presses, so to visit the inn you press I, and to go to the desert you press D, that sort of thing. Once there, a random event will trigger. Some places have other options, such as when you get to the inn you can eat, and if you go to the village you can recruit men to join your party. Obviously you need gold for these things, which is found randomly after a fight. Each player takes turns, and random events roll on. I'm not a big fan of this style of game, and without a map and other excited players, it's just all a game of randomness. Next we move into 1984 and January, and the release of Next War. This doesn't start so well. Lots of stats and things, too much to remember. You then get to pick a scenario, and then a long period of initialization, or in common speak, setting up random things. Then we get a map and a crosshair. You place a few things using the cursor control, and then a line draws slowly across the bottom of the screen. I'm assuming this is the spectrum thinking, or setting up random stuff. We then get back to the map and can move tanks. Well, try to move tanks. When they get to where you want them, they just jump back to the starting position. Don't say I have to read the instructions. So once you've moved all your units, one by one, then the game plays out. The computer moves its tanks and forces. The most excitement was when I got a chance of an airstrike. Each move is counted by the computer, and things progress until there is only one winning person. The idea is you have to push the enemy back behind the line, or destroy all their units. The game is too slow for me, and not a game or game style I enjoy. For wargame fans though, this could pass a few hours, or even days. Still in January, on the 26th of January, Krago Castle was released, a game with two names. Adverts both have Kraso Castle and Krago Castle, assuming the person on the telephone didn't hear them correctly and just made a guess. And this introduces Mogadishu the elf, so finally we get the Mogadishu game. Mogadishu was to go on to more games, but sadly never made it. You have to guide him on a quest to find the treasures of the evil Lord Krago. Each game, the map is more or less the same, but the doors, treasures and monsters are all random. More annoyingly, no objects or exits are visible until you press the V key to look. You can also look at things individually by typing out a command. And in every room you have to search the walls for secret passages, and this soon gets tiring. Combat is automatic, you either win or you don't. Because of the complexity around the randomness, the game did have issues. You can drop an object and it vanishes, being placed in the wrong location. Objects can be in the room but not visible as they are obscured by other static scenery. Objects can be randomly placed in rooms not accessible. It's all a bit of a mess. You can see the end message by breaking into the game and poking a value and then entering go to 50. Thanks to CASA for that one. There's a short text story and then a map, and finally the news that the next game, Mog in the Land of Soth, will be coming soon. It never did. Next, still in January, we get Raker. You're first asked if you want to design your own board game. No, let's just let the computer do it. Next, the number of craters. Let's just have 2. And then a lot more things happen. How many missiles you want, how many bombs you need to use, can things be rearmed on certain points, it all gets very complicated. Eventually, we get a fully populated map and options appear across the bottom. Again, a style of game I don't like, war games. The screen redraws at every available opportunity, it seems. There are too many graphics, too many choices, and my head spins. And yes, I know this style of game is popular to some people. But for now, let's move on. Or not. That was it. Through 1984, the shops closed one by one, which for me personally was very sad. I went week in, week out, got to know the people there, and then they just stopped getting new titles. I had to go to Leeds City Centre to get new releases after that. The last advert I can find was in Popular Computing Weekly in April 1984, and no more titles were released from Assassin Software. A tale of a local small retailer who tried their hand at games. The games were written by different people and not themselves, although one game, Usurper, had a credit of L. Chance. Let's assume that's Last Chance, the name of one of their shops. The way of the small independents declined, replaced by larger retail chains as the larger software houses and distributors took over. A fun time while it lasted. You may know about these two new games, but I thought I would highlight them here. Because, well, they're excellent, really. Both are arcade conversions and probably the best of their type for the Spectrum. First is Scramble RX by Alan Turvey. This is as close as you're going to get on the Spectrum to that iconic arcade game. Smooth scrolling landscape, bombs, missiles, UFOs, meteors, and great gameplay. The control is excellent, with different options for bombing and shooting, and the game overall is brilliant. Make sure you keep bombing those fuel dumps though, to keep you going through the rest of the game. I mentioned this on the live show, for anyone who was at Crash 2024, but obviously not everyone could be there. I love this game. If you haven't already got it, shame on you. Go and grab it now. Next is Donkey Kong by Artonopolis. And again, as close as you're going to get to the arcade classic. All the tunes have been implemented and the graphics are superb. The sprites and background look fantastic, close to the arcade, and clever use of colour clash to make it almost invisible, or at least not noticeable. Control is great, and the sound effects really make a huge difference. This is a joy to play, but I think I need a bit more practice. Another one to go and grab as soon as you can.
This is the true story of the people who created modern gaming. The 20 amazing ghosts in the machine who created the...
If anyone watched my interview with Mel Croucher, he mentioned a book he was working on that included the man behind the ZX Microfares. Well, that book is now on Kickstarter and ready to be funded. Mel's last book, The Mundanium, was very interesting and a great read, and Mel has been around the UK computer scene since the 70s, starting the first UK computer entertainment company, Automata, in 1977.
Love and loss, tragedy and comedy, addiction, murder, suicide, and a whole lot of fun.
If you're interested in games and the industry history, then this looks like it might be of interest to you. Bye.